All right, good evening, guys. My name is Ana Lopez and I'm the Community Service Representative for District 6. Councilmember Ballard is not able to be here. She is with other council members in Washington, DC with doing their yearly meeting. So I'm gonna be sharing this meeting tonight. We can go ahead and start with introductions from our board members. Go ahead.
Amy Rogers. What else am I supposed to say?
In the neighborhood that you represent.
Well, that group.
You can help me out in a minute.
Sorry.
The name and the neighborhood that you represent.
I'm Amy Rogers. I represent Walnut Grove neighborhood.
There you go. Thank you, Amy.
I'm Bill Washburn, Sherwood Glen.
Tom James, North River. Josh Siebenthaler, Indian Hills River Bend.
Mark Baker, Lake Ridge.
All right, with that, we can go ahead and call this meeting to order. We have the approval of the agenda for the March 11th, and we can go ahead and combine it with the approval of the minutes for the February 5th, 2024 meeting. Do we have a motion? Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. With that, we can go ahead and move on to our second item of tonight's agenda, which is the Wichita Fire Department staff report.
Good evening, everybody. I'll get to the introduction. I'm Captain Hoschild, Firehouse number 3. We're out of 32nd and Broadway. Apologize for my appearance. We just got done with the brush fire. So I'll lead off from there. Obviously, if you pay attention to the news, high fire danger, any open burning in the city. I don't believe we're under burn restriction right now, but I want to emphasize that anytime we are under these red flag conditions or extreme fire danger, open burning in the city of Wichita does have restrictions. It's limited to any natural wood products. So basically any limbs you can saw down and can be put into a fire pit that's got a spark arrestor on top of it. Which can float out and cause a problem. And it has to be so many feet from the structure. These are things I don't have on the top of my head. I can gov, the fire page, will have those restrictions. They can be found on there. You can search for them from the main page. You can find those permanent. But it's imperative that even if we don't have the burn ban in place, to pay attention to that weather. The fire we had today was actually a burn from yesterday that rekindled, and it started to spread up the railroad tracks. That causes a lot of issues for not only us, but we have to shut the railroad down. Anytime you shut down a railroad, it costs a lot of money. So they want those back up as quick as possible. If you can help us, you know it's going to be those extreme fire danger days, red flag days. Please resist the urge to burn. And just know that, again, no trash can be burned in the city of Wichita. Going forward from there, we just had spring forward. So hopefully everybody checked the smoke alarm batteries, make sure they were up to date and refreshed. But with that, as I've been emphasizing in these meetings before, have your escape plan, practice it with everybody in their house. I don't care if you're an adult to a child, practice that plan because you do not know when you're going to need it. And when you need it, I promise it's going to be the most chaotic environment possible. If you don't practice it, I promise you it will not kick in at 2 in the morning. That's why we do a lot of the training we do, because we want to be mission ready all the time. So I would emphasize you do that at home. And I'll finalize with the run numbers for this year. So far, we're at over 12,000 alarms for the years. Those obviously are not all fires and respond to all kinds of things. Within the district, we have had a few fires. Most recently over here on West 29th Street, we had a small fire, a couple of rooms burnt. No occupant was not hurt and refused to have Red Cross assistance. So we mitigated that fire relatively quickly. We still have a problem with vacant homes catching fire. As this weather warms up, and the warming shelter is closed on East 21st Street. Those folks are filtering back into our community. I know PD is aware of that. But again, if you have vacant homes in your area, keep a keen eye out. If there's people mingling around or you have squatters coming in and out, notify WPD. We'll come out and we'll make sure that we have that boarded up. And maybe BCD's been very good about following up on those as well. So with that, I'll open up to any questions you might have.
Board members, do we have any questions, comments? Members of the public, any questions or comments for fire? No? All right. Thank you so much for the staff.
Good evening.
Thank you. Next, we have Wichita Police Department.
Hello, and I am Officer Williams with Wichita Police Department. I run beats 14 and 15 for the west side. I also assist with the homeless outreach team on the west side of Wichita. Some of our numbers that we had this month, our part one crime draw pretty much down. I think burglary was up just a little bit with 20%, but with that 20%, that was one more burglary than the last 28 days. So wasn't really that much. But larcenies were down 28%, which is great, getting those back down. Our auto thefts were slightly up. We had 8 auto thefts compared to 3 the last 28 days. So that brings that up a lot. Some of the other things that we have going on, I handed out the Second Chance Thursday paperwork, and it's going to be at the Carl G. Brewer Recreational Center, located at 1329 East 16th Street North. Some of the things that we'll be doing is basically just trying to get people back their driver's license. We'll also be changing traffic warrants back over to being payable. If somebody does come there and they are suspended, we are able, if they can go through the whole process and actually get their license back. I'm not sure about the revoked, but we can also take care of environmental warrants also. Just to show some of the people who are there, which is going to be the DMV, municipal court, the driver's license, Kansas International Driver's License School, and Next Step. So that will be occurring on March 28th from 9 a.m. to 4:30. With the homeless outreach team and some of the cleanups and things that have been going on around Wichita, I know that we did a cleanup at Maple in the Big Ditch, which resulted in roughly about 5 tons of trash that was down there. So it does collect. We just got done, we were over at 21st and Amadon today. We're behind the subway. And we actually are getting that cleaned out, and that should be cleaned out next week. So other than that, just make sure that we're locking our doors, shutting our garages. We don't want to give criminals the opportunity to be able to just go in there and get stuff. So with that being said, anybody have any questions? Sir?
Did you mention environmental warrant on the Second Chance Thursday?
Yes.
What is that?
So if MABCD has ever like written out a warrant for you for your trash or something about your dog or something like that, that's considered environmental. So we can actually do those too.
All right, any other questions, comments from the board, from the public?
About how many people do you serve on those days, roughly?
Oh, man. It can be anywhere from 100 to 300 or 400. I think their top was like around 5.
Okay.
So that was a busy day.
And is the majority of it vehicle related, licenses and things like that?
Yes.
Just curious.
Most of it is licensed. Most everyone they either pay their warrants off or they want to try and figure out how to get their license back, because it's really hard to go through Topeka with it being so far away to be able to get your license back reinstated, especially when we have people who are here local that can actually get it done. So there have been a lot of people through the years that have waited like 6 months to a year after paying all their fines to be able to get their driver's license back. So this way it goes a lot faster, and it's a one-stop shop. You know, it's one of those where you can actually go and do 4 or 5 things that would have taken you 4 or 5 days, but now you do it in 45 minutes.
Is this just once a year or do you do it once or
We do it
twice?
quarterly.
Quarterly. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
We used to do it for a while. We did it every Thursday. Then it was, you know, every other Thursday, and then it kind of got longer and longer. So we're trying to get as many people in as we can. We're trying to advertise as much as we can to be able to get it out there.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Officer Williams. Okay, that we can go ahead and move on to the item number 4. We have Wichita Public Library report.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ann Ethan. I'm the branch manager here at the Evergreen Branch Library. I'm also the manager over at Maya Angelou Northeast Branch Library. A couple quick things. The Big Read is starting this year. The book is There by Tommy Orange. It's about a Native American powwow in Oakland, California. It kicks off on March the 16th, and that'll be your first chance to pick up a free copy of the book at the Advanced Learning Library downtown. This is spring break, and we have several programs here for the kids. Wednesdays, the teens are going to be making dioramas out of those Peep candies, those marshmallowy things. It's based off of the Washington Post's annual competition, a story, a movie, something you can create a scene using little Peep bunnies. The kids have a lot of fun. So if you've got any teens or tweens, grades 6 and up, bring them in on Wednesday. Thursday morning is our regular bilingual preschool story time, English, Spanish. And Friday, we'll be having a bilingual program about the upcoming solar eclipse. We have the Eclipse Ambassadors. They're a NASA-sponsored volunteer group, and they're giving programs every day this week, I believe, at different library locations. And we have a Spanish-speaking ambassador that will be presenting the program here in English and Spanish. And each family that attends can get 1 free pair of Eclipse glasses. The last time we had an eclipse, everybody wanted Eclipse glasses, and we didn't have any to give away. The news had gotten the impression that we had them, and we were getting calls and calls and calls. Well, this time we have Eclipse glasses, but you have to come to one of our programs, bring your kids to one of our programs in order to get the Eclipse glasses. Those of you who live in the neighborhood, if you used to vote down the street at Trinity, we're the new polling place in the neighborhood. So next Tuesday, we'll be hosting the election here in this room. We are not doing advanced voting. I did get some calls about whether we're an advanced voting location, and we are not, but we are a regular polling place. And we will host March, the August primary, and the November general. That's all I've got. If there's any questions?
Did you say you have 3 copies of the book available on the 16th?
Yes. 2 to 4 p.m. at the Advanced Learning Library, March the 16th will be the kickoff event. And that is where you can go to pick up a free copy of the book while supplies last. If they don't run out on the first day, then they'll continue to pass them out at upcoming events.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Public, any have any questions for our public libraries? Yeah. All right, thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are now at the public portion of this agenda. This portion of the agenda provides an opportunity for citizens to present issues that are not part of the regular agenda for this meeting. There's a 5-minute time limit for each speaker. We don't have any scheduled items. We can go ahead and move on to item number 6. Do we have any members of the public who are wanting to address any off-agenda items? With that, we can go ahead and move on to new business. Item number 7, we have conditional use 2023-61.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Philip Ziebenbergen with the Metropolitan Area Planning Department. On 2361, it's coming back to you guys after a couple of months. The original time that we were here, the applicant wasn't able to attend the DAP 6 meeting, and there were some outstanding questions from the DAB that they requested Councilmember Ballard to send it back to you guys to hear it and be able to get those questions answered before any final action was taken at City Council. So that's where we are today. As a refresher of the item, it's the Wichita Children's Home is the applicant requesting a conditional use for group residence general. Located at a property at 1110 North Victoria Avenue, which is just north of St. Francis Hospital. The property is zone B multifamily. And what group residence general would allow them to do is to house at least 15 or more individuals, including staff. Within B multifamily right now, group residence limited is already permitted. That allows up to 15 individuals, including staff. This essentially goes to the next level over, which is why it requires the conditional use. According to their application, it would be allowing, it's a low barrier drop-in center for runaway, homeless, or at-risk youth who are 21 years or younger. And the group residence center would allow a facility to house up to 24 persons, including staff. The property to the north is zone TF3 and is developed with Emporia Park. Property to the west is B multifamily, developed with a parking lot. Property to the east is B, as well as developed with a single family dwelling. Property to the east is zone B as well. I'm sorry, property to the south is zone B and is a single family dwelling. Property to the east is zone B and it is developed with a parking lot. The comprehensive plan identifies that property is appropriate for commercial development. B multifamily zoning is conducive for multifamily use, so you can actually have 75.1 dwelling units an acre within B in terms of the type of number of residents that would be allowed if it were to ever be redeveloped into any type of multifamily in the area. The places for people plan identifies that looking for has a strategy to provide a diversity of housing options to attract new and allow existing residents to remain. The purpose of group residential will permit additional residents to be served by the facility at this location. Staff believes that the scale of the request is not out of character with the neighborhood, considering the other types of facilities in and around the St. Francis Hospital. The Midtown plan, we find that it's conformance with as well. The plan determined that the area north of St. Francis Hospital should incorporate mixed-use opportunities to act as a buffer between intense non-residential use and quiet residential neighborhood. Although the conditional use request is residential, it's more of an intensity type based on the number of beds proposed than the higher intensity uses in the Midtown plan. So essentially ratcheting down the intensity of uses from the hospital down to the residential uses farther north. Staff recommended approval. Planning Commission recommended approval of this as well, subject to conditions in the staff report, which is that no signs would be allowed except for those under the code for the B multifamily zoning districts. So none of that is changing. And then they're going to operate in compliance with all federal, state, and local regulations. And so I'm going to leave it at that. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I believe we have folks here from the Wichita Children's Home who can answer your questions that you might have for them.
How many occupants are there currently? Who's the applicant?
We currently have 15 beds in an 8-bedroom, and we are requesting 2 additional bedrooms be used for families. So mothers, typically mothers and their child or children.
Okay. How many staff are typically there?
At least 2. We have overnight awake staff, so we're staffed 24/7.
Does the board have any other questions or comments for staff?
Just to refresh my memory on what we decided before, why did we send it back, or why did it come back to us? I don't.
My recollection of the conversation after that was concerns of additional transient activity in the area. Is already serving a general transient population, and there's other facilities around that also serve transient population in the area. That's my recollection of the concerns was just possibly adding more of that type in the area. And there's concerns from neighbors of like activities that are going on down the street, whether or not this would possibly increase some of the issues that area is having.
Since the change happened, like Emporia Park has had some not great new activity, and I don't know if it's really correlated or causal, but it seemed to be around that time. And so I think part of the concern is if we're adding more availability, are we going to be adding more transient activity? Like So I guess that's, you probably don't know that, but it just, I think that's,
Yeah, so to answer that question in general about whether or not we would add to that type of activity, our goal is to serve young people who are experiencing homelessness and give them a safe place to stay so that they're not on the streets, they're not camping outside, and they are not a nuisance to the public. So our goal is to shelter them into our shelter and provide them with resources for long-term housing. If there are situations that arise, we work very closely with WPD and especially the Wichita HOT team to ensure that if there's any type of nuisance around, that they're helping us address that, whether or not it's our clients. And there's also several different businesses around that area. And so we're very well aware that that could be a concern, but we're trying to be part of the solution so that that type of transient activity is decreased because they have somewhere safe to go.
so I'm curious, like you said, there's staff there overnight who are awake, is that you said? So I live very close to that, and I have noticed in the early morning, there have been, I'll say, this when the weather was warmer, the late summer and fall. A couple of times I've seen couple of young women separately with older men kind of out on corners around from where the facility is. As I walk through, my assumption is that someone from that facility has left and gone to speak to someone outside. So it seems like that's what it seems like.
Right, I
So-
will say that there are no in and out between 10 p.m. Our curfew is 9 p.m. and they can leave the building at 7 a.m. So between the hours of 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., we don't have people coming in and out of the building. Yeah, we have a curfew time, if you will.
Do you anticipate having to hire more staff with the increase of 2 extra bedrooms?
At this point, we have enough staff coverage because we currently are operating typically in child welfare. We have 1 staff to 10 individuals, and we would have up to 18 adults there, potentially 20 if there's a family staying in a bed. It's very rare that we will have a couple. It's usually single mothers. So according to child welfare standards, it's 1 for every 10 during sleeping hours. So we don't anticipate that would be an issue, but we can certainly take a look at that if it does become overwhelming. But it's pretty manageable to watch people sleep. 1 to 10 is pretty manageable. Yeah.
What's the typical process for someone transitioning? From there, I mean, where they move
Sure.
out, or is there-
Into their own apartment. So we work primarily with the Wichita Housing Authority for Section 8 vouchers, rapid rehousing, permanent supported housing, for folks that are coming in that are employed or have some income. We help them get into their apartment without any subsidies. Going back to family, friends, we have a 70% rate of people going into successful, safe and stable housing.
Average length of time?
Average length of stay is 32 days. I've done my homework.
Well, thank you very much. So it's currently only for youth, but this would add a family component, is that right?
It's currently for individuals because of the layout of the building. We serve 18 to 24-year-olds, and this will allow 18 to 24-year-old mothers or fathers or family units to have. We only have space for 2 bedrooms.
Do we have any other questions from the board, from the public? This one, we can bring it back to the board for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Who was our second? Yeah. All those in favor? All those against? Angela, how was your vote? We have a board member on Zoom. Give me just a second. Angela, are you there?
Who's in Topeka?
Perhaps.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, my vote's yes. I was looking for an option to share, but can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you, Angela.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that it looks like it, that motion is passed 8-0. 7, sorry. That motion passes 7-0. Right, with that, we can go ahead and move on to item number 8, conditional use 2024-2.
This is also a conditional use request. This is to allow the expansion of the Evergy substation. They're on North Hoover, sandwiched between Hoover and I-235. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. The property is in single family residential. The original substation has been there for quite some time at the point it didn't require the screening standards and stuff that we have these days. So that part of it has been grandfathered in on things. The applicant, on when you get a chance, no rush. There is a site plan in your packet that shows, this is page 5, there you go. Original substation is the unshaded area to the north. The expansion you can see is not necessarily considerable in size, just a little bit of expansion to the south. With this, though, Evergy is planning on doing what they've been doing with most of their substations throughout Wichita and closing it in a masonry wall. They actually have had a associated variance request for 2 things. One, to have some of the equipment in the setback still behind the wall, but technically the equipment they have should not be in the setback. And then the other variance request they had was to allow a 9-foot wall, because our zoning code only allows a 6 to 8 foot wall in the setback, and so in order to go taller, they technically needed an exception to that rule. So that's not part of this request, that's just additional information for you guys to know that they do plan on enclosing the substation in the masonry wall. You've probably seen it in some of the updated substations around town. I think for the sake of time, they would possibly need to provide landscaping during the building review process. There's some, because it was an existing substation prior to the advent of the landscape ordinance, they would only need to come into compliance with the landscape ordinance if the redevelopment or the addition is 50% of the value of the existing development, which is determined by the county appraiser's office. Or that they're adding 30% increase in gross floor area or gross area of development. We're not talking about a building, or we're talking about a general area of development. So we don't necessarily have those calculations right now. So possibility of being able to come in compliance with the landscape ordinance, which essentially would just provide some plantings around the outside to help break up the wall. We have not heard any public comment about this. This was at Planning Commission on the 28th. It was recommended for approval by Planning Commission. Coming to now, and then it'll be going to City Council for final action here in the next few weeks. So staff is recommending approval. The conditions of approval are that it all complies with federal, state, and local regulations, and I can stand for any questions.
In the event that we do hear from the appraisal that it would then fall under the landscaping ordinance, would that require someone reporting it for it, or would y'all then be like, okay, now we know we gotta go out there and check it out?
Good question. I'll probably get determined through the permitting stage.
Okay.
There's a various levels of review where they kick up landscape reviews up to the planning department myself, actually. And getting in a good working relationship with the building and construction department, that they are kind of sending some up to me of like, when in doubt, send it up. Whether or not they provided the plan, sometimes they'll send something up to me like, hey, this looks like it needs a landscape review, take a look at it. So we can work on it through the permitting stage. Because then we'll have more of the numbers.
And then you said that the exterior would be masonry, is that?
A masonry wall, I believe. So brick or stone or block, they did block, yeah.
Like the one on 11th Right, okay.
Yeah. There's several examples. I know it's not anywhere near District 6, but 30 or Pawnee and Oliver down south has a big new substation expansion that they've done. So there, that's just kind of their thing. 13th Street east of Ridge, just south of Sedgwick County Park. That's another good example of a recent, that's a brand new substation, but that's an example of the wall.
They approved the variance for the 9-foot wall.
They did. They were heard at the same meeting.
So if there is a landscape requirement, it would be on the outside of that wall. Is there
Yes.
any room there to put any kind of landscape between
They
those?
they would have to accommodate the landscaping within their property, so they would have to scoot their wall back far enough to accommodate it.
The setback larger, basically.
So the wall, you would have their property line, a landscaping area, and a wall, and then their equipment would be behind the wall.
Do you have any members of the public who would like to comment or ask questions on this zoning case? Is the applicant present?
Let's see, PEC was representing them, but I haven't seen.
Okay.
I am here online virtually. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but Phillips did a nice job of covering the plan, so.
Thank you.
We just didn't have we have our screen up, we don't have our people up.
We have
So-
Angela and one guest. I wasn't
Okay.
sure who guest was. There you go. All right, with that, we can bring it back to the board for additional questions, comments, or a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Give me just a second. Next option, there it is. All right, who made the motion? Okay. And our second? Tom, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Angela. Looks like, the motion passes 7-0. Go ahead and move on to, item number 9, which is, zone 2024-00002.
Request for property address at 321 North Doris. The property is zoned single family residential. They're looking for TF3 two-family residential, which would allow a duplex to be built on the site. Property is 0.27 acres in size. The property surrounding this immediately on all sides is SF5 single family residential zoning. But if you go to the zoning map, there you go. You can see the very recent vicinity, nearby vicinity is kind of popcorn with a lot here, a lot there in TF3 zoning. So this is not necessarily breaking up large contiguous areas of single family residential. And then you have B multifamily zoning just to the south and east, that's the brown, as well as multifamily zoning at that location as well. And staff is recommending approval. The comprehensive plan identifies it for residential development. Places for people, recommend adding a diversity of housing options in the ECA to attract or retain residents. We have not heard any comments on this one, and I can stand for any questions.
Now, something that we've heard from some folks in Delano who have been at some duplexes pop around them is the height of buildings relative to their neighbors. Has the applicant submitted a plan or anything of the sort to this?
No, but TF3 and SF5 have the same height standards, that's 35 feet. I know a lot of times in Wichita, the majority of the homes we see are single story or 1.5 story, possibly in older parts of Wichita. And so there's no high compatibility issue just because somebody has an SF5 zone lot can build a 35-foot house as well.
Looking at the pictures here, it looks like it's vacant. Do we know how long that has been? Is the applicant here?
Is it an unpaved road?
The demolition, when the staff report was written by the staff person who did this, it appeared that the demolition was ongoing, so it seems relatively recent.
Driveway.
House calls,
The
nothing?
aerial map in your staff report shows a rooftop. And we do have 2023 aerial images in our GIS, so it's been relatively recent that that house is taken down.
Yeah, because when I looked at it, the maps looked like a map. A question for this group, I know that when we've, approved building duplexes in the past, we've done something to prevent the chicken coop kind of thing that folks, rail against. We want.
Yeah, well, usually rails against that.
You and
We're deferring to you, Bill.
Crow one.
Let me make a motion.
Well, we want to go out for.
Do we have anybody who's here to speak on this? Do any members of the public have any questions, comments? Is applicant present?
I'm not the applicant, but I'm glad Joshua brought up the question that I was going to ask about how many slopes the roof would have.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we can bring it back to the board for a motion. Questions or comments?
So I guess I'm stuck. I'd make a motion that we approve it with the condition, I think the way we worded this before is that it have a gable roof.
Gable.
Hip or gable.
Gable,
yeah.
So essentially a protective overlay, because that's how zoning works, is we can do conditions, but we basically do it for the protective overlay that would require hip or gable.
Yes.
Okay, great. That was the one, if I remember, I think I was reporting here. Like 9th in St. Paul.
Yeah.
If that rings a bell for me.
We should
Okay.
have short.
13th and
Call it the
McLean.
Washburn.
Yeah, the Washburn Amendment. The Washburn overlay.
Washburn overlay.
Make note of that, fellow. Thing.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Angela. Oh, Angela,
Yes,
we already had a second. Brian
that's
second.
fine.
All right, thank you. All those for this motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Angela. All against? None? All right, looks like it passes. This motion passes 7-0. We can go ahead and move on to item number 10, and so 2024-5.
It's on like a broken record, but this is a zone change request from SF5 to Tier 3. This property is located on North Hood, just north of 29th Street. As you can see on the map in front of you. Again, we're looking to develop duplex on the site. The character of the neighborhood is mostly residential. I'm gonna skip that to the zoning map, please. Properties to the north, west, and south are single-family residential. This one's unique in that the property is directly behind it. You can see the brown is a B multifamily, and then the red is limited commercial, which limited commercial allows the same high density that B multifamily would, which is 75.1 units an acre. Those are undeveloped tracts of land, but anybody could come in and just put in high density residential with a building permit and have no conversation about zoning or anything of that matter. They would have to comply with compatibility height and setback standards because they have higher height standards than the SF5 and the TF3. So there is some governing on, you can't put like a 7-story apartment building or even really a 4-story apartment building. They would be limited to 35 feet in height. But they could put a number of multiple buildings and achieve a very high density in that area. And that's triple building behind it. As you saw also on the map, just on the south side of 29th Street, there's a strip of TF3 zoning on Cromwell Drive, and then MF18 zoning there just west of Salina. That's the orange color. So just kind of a mixed bag just in this little small vicinity. It's much more contiguous single family to the north and to the west. So staff is recommending approval. We have not heard any public comments regarding this. The comprehensive plan identifies it as appropriate for residential development. This is outside the established central area, so we don't review the Wichita Places for People plan for that. And I think with that, I can stand for any questions.
Please. One of them really is just an item of curiosity, I guess. Is city water available on Hood Avenue? I think it says the lot doesn't have.
It does not have a, well, it says it does not have hookups, that just might mean it does not have a water meter. Ariel does not have the, I'm sure city water is with this many lots in close proximity, I don't think there'd be a way to be on well water or something like that. There would have to be city water in this area to support this level.
Anna, can you drop back down to the overhead shot? The aerial?
Just one big job, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So it appears that the lot to the south has a building that's encroaching on this lot.
It could just be, they'll have to figure that out during building permits. It could be that our aerial overlay and our lot line overlay aren't lining up very well in GIS, and sometimes depending on where you are in the city, our maps don't line up very well just because we choose separate layers. You know, if that is the case, I mean, that's something to where a survey would do, anybody constructing on it would likely take these steps during the permitting to ensure that they actually have full use of the property. If it's something that's definitely something that those two property owners would have to figure out for themselves. The simple answer for that is the ability to do a boundary shift. Essentially, if two property owners agree, you can just submit a new survey of both properties with the city clerk, and they just shift your line. You're not creating new lots, you're just allocating land one way or the other. They can actually shift it to possibly remedy that situation if that building was approaching.
So regard to this proposal, if that is depicting the lot line correctly, would the permitting process catch that and ensure that we're still within, that the design proposal is still within the confines of the required square footage for the structure?
Yes.
Okay.
Because even if that house was built on the property line, say worst case scenario, like it is right on the line, we can't come back and say, well, this house doesn't meet setbacks, because that one's only built.
Yeah.
The new structure has to meet all required setbacks, which is 6 feet off the property line. And they do allow structures to be that close together, and they might require them to have a beefier firewall or something like that on this outside, since they're closer to a structure. But there is ways around that, even if this house, you know, is on the property line. But
Thank you.
I'm here to represent this one. Bill, to answer your question, we do own half of her garage, so when it got sold, it was a big mix up. And so Savoy never got in their plat in time when they took it to auction, but we've already been working, like you said, it's just a joint thing. We're gonna move the line over. We got no interest in having half of her garage.
just as long as you make sure you have 6,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's still, it's only, I think, 6 foot is what it's end up, 6 to 10 foot or moving it. It didn't change any of our plans. We're not doing a chicken coop there either. It's not a 2-story, it's just a slab, 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage, just the standard one you see around town, so.
I would still suggest that if when we go forward with the motion, assuming we do, that we put that overlay requirement on, because if the thing burns down, or somebody replaces it, we'd still like to have that expectation in place.
Okay. Essentially, sir, they provide that protective overlay that requires a hypergable roof, and that's what you're planning on doing. It doesn't change anything that you're already planning, it just protects it in the future, should, like you said, it burns down or something like that, and somebody else comes in and wants to build something.
Okay. Yeah.
No offense.
No.
We appreciate you showing up.
Yeah.
And just so I'm clear, hasn't been any public comments.
No, then I'm aware. The report says none, and it's going to planning commission here on Thursday. So we haven't heard from them yet, but, the report was mailed out last week. And so since last Thursday, we haven't heard.
And there's no history of the property being developed ever before.
Doesn't look like it. According to historical areas, the subject site has never been developed. I mean, it could likely be that maybe at one point this property owner owned both.
She did.
And then when it went over the line, they see an
He
extension.
did the lot split right before, and then it never got filed with the city, then they rushed it to McCurdy auction. So I got sold the original 75 foot. And that's why I went out there to measure, and I was like, well, I'm right in the middle of her garage at 75. So then I saw the roof line, and I was like, oh, she added it, she built the garage on, which was no big deal. It's, yeah.
This is unrelated, Phil, we have you, when are we hearing about the changes in zoning notification?
Probably soon. I will have to look at my schedule out next month. I can't recall off the top of my head. We have been taking notification to other city DAPs, so we have it in the process. So I think we're just working with which staff person going and what works best for our schedule. Now that the county's solar project has been, well, extended, and they're kind of taking the pressure off of the planning department a little bit by looking for some consultants. That should free us up to work on some of the notification stuff. Like I said, we've done some other city data, it just hasn't worked to get it. Yeah, everybody has seen it, so it's coming.
Do you have any other further questions from the DAP or from members of the public on this zoning case? Now we can bring it back to the DAB for a motion, discussion. And or
I
discussion.
move the DAB 6 approves it. Approve this project.
With the
With the protected overlay, thank you.
Agreeable, just so we're clear.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Alright.
Hi.
Thank you, Angela. Looks like this motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you.
I think that's a new record for that 6. All right, we can go ahead and move over to our board agenda. Any updates, issues, or reports from our board members?
I don't know if the other neighborhoods are experiencing this, but I'm noticing a little bit of dumping a lot.
Illegal
Old
dumping?
tires and just junk.
Just on the side of the
Yeah,
road,
yeah. Are you guys experiencing any of that?
not anymore than usual.
We get it in our neighborhood because we back up to the big ditch. The neighborhood cleanup was an awesome time for us to clean that up, and so we'll do that again.
And it only happens every 2 years for us, so.
If you guys ever see any illegal dumping, you guys can always report it to me and we can get that submitted. So we submit that to MABCD and they are the ones who make sure that it's cleaned up within the certain allotted time that they have to clean it up.
I'll take some pictures and send them to you.
Okay.
And then for neighborhood cleanup days, there's usually support from the city for that, if I remember right.
I'm sorry.
Isn't there
Right.
support from the city
Oh,
for
yeah.
neighborhood cleanup?
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
every,
we-
every 2 years.
We just, well, we do every year.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
August, I think we just set the date, August.
And I
I'll
think
just bring the old tires down to your place.
Yep.
Just kidding.
the applications are available now. If you guys are wanting to go ahead and host one in your neighborhood, I can go ahead and send that out your way. So you guys can get that information ahead of time and you can book whatever month, whatever time works best for the neighborhood association.
Well, we usually get 2 Packer trucks. We start the week ahead of time, telling everybody, you know, the date. You gotta bring it out to the curb the night before. And then we just have a cruise, like usually hop in the back of a pickup truck and follow the Packer trucks around. And we get to load, we jump out, everybody throws stuff in the Packer truck and we just got it, we just map it out. We just cover the whole Riverside, North Riverside area.
And I will follow up with an email for the app members with a link of some of those rules and guidelines for hosting one in your neighborhood, and then you can let us know if you're wanting to host one this year or maybe next year. Any other updates?
One thing for me is that the budget roundtables have been going on. So they've been doing them at the Advanced Learning Library. There was one, I think, end of January and one last week. So it's just a reminder for folks that budget season's coming up and they're gonna be redoing the CIP for the next 10 years. So to our infrastructure for the next 10 years in the city. So sure to give your feedback on that.
And if you haven't followed the Wichita District 6 Facebook page, go ahead and follow that on social media or the city of Wichita. That's where we usually post some of those upcoming meetings and reminders.
You know what the next budget thing is?
I think the next action item will be in April. They're gonna have both the social media town halls, and they usually do those on the Facebook page. And then they'll post the budget simulator, which they did in 2019 and 2022. So you to balance the budget, because next year we're looking at a $5 million deficit, and the next 4 years after that, a $9 million deficit. So you get to They're gonna build out in the details a little bit more, so anything, if they follow all the feedback that was provided in the budget roundtable, any city office with over $5 million in expenditures will have at least a few drop downs that you can fiddle with. And so instead of it just saying libraries, cut, 10-20%, raise 20%, you'll have libraries, like youth services, something. If they take it all into account. But that's next month's section.
I think the increase in my assessment value will take care of the deficit.
If they listen, there will be an option to increase your mill. So you can, it's only been 30 years.
Or just, an announcement on our side, our next meeting is Monday, April 8th. Here at this location, we start at 6:30. Councilmember Ballard has reappointed every board member for one more term. So the term starts April 1st and goes over to March 31st of 2025. So at our next meeting, we will have the city clerk here and she will do the oath of office during this meeting.
Getting anybody new?
No, we are completely, everybody's here. We haven't had any vacancies within the last few months, so we're a good team.
Nice. Good retention.
So you're not firing me after all?
That was just a glitch in our email system.
Because Bill and I, for some reason, we couldn't get, we never got the.
That's why I followed up with you guys, because I kept getting the same message over and over again, so I'm like, I'm gonna follow up with them and see if they got it. Yeah, but I'm working with our IT department to see if it's a glitch on our end.
Oh, you guys really can get the email. What the fuck?
No. We thought we got Candace.
I mean, this is a pretty sweet gig. It's at the back of my household list.
All right, with that, do I have a motion to adjourn if we don't have any other updates or comments? Who was the second?
I was.
All right, with that, we are, thank you.